Thank you for joining us for this week's message at Crosswind Church. In this new 4-week series called Broken, Jeremy talks about how each one of us carries within ourselves a brokenness. God, through Christ, makes the broken whole. If you have any questions about this message or about Crosswind Church, please visit our website at www.crosswindchurch.net or email us at info@crosswindchurch.net.
Just want to reiterate what Matt said. You know, in so many churches, they follow like that percent rule, right? Like 80% of the work done by 20% of the people, that sort of thing. Wednesday night, we had total almost 40 volunteers, 39 volunteers here Wednesday night to work with children and youth, and it was exciting to watch folks kind of get involved, plug in, and help disciple these kids. So it's neat to see that we're a church that serves. It's something that's so important to us. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and grab those. We're going to be in 1 Samuel today. And if you don't have your Bible, that's okay. You can follow along on your smartphone, on your app, or watch the words on the screen. I want to tell you a story today about the time when I really kind of felt like a celebrity. In fact, it was one of those times where perhaps I most felt like a celebrity. It was 2009. I had kids that were like 4 and almost 2, a year and a half or so, and I had been battling a pretty serious lung infection. It was a fungal infection in my lung, which sounds gross and really was gross. That's what it was. So I've been battling that in my lung, and the doctors that were seeing me at the time were in Bethesda, Maryland, at the National Institute of Health, and they said to me, Jeremy, we think the mass is so encapsulated, it's not going to respond to medicine. We need to surgically remove it. And so I don't know if you know this about me, but I don't like to slow down. I don't like to stop even when I'm sick. Like, I just want to keep going, because if I just pretend like I'm okay, then I'll be okay. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And so Jody and I looked at our schedule. Like, I'm having to have major surgery in another state, but we look at our schedule to see when would be best we could fit it in. And so we kind of figured out that the week of spring break was going to be kind of perfect for us. Jody would be out of school so she could hang out with me in Maryland, and my girls were still, this was preschool for them, so it wouldn't be that big a deal. The only problem was that the Sunday before spring break was Easter Sunday, which I don't know if you know, but it's kind of a big deal for us here at the church. So I decided what we would do is I would preach Easter Sunday at my church, and then I would go get on a plane and fly to Maryland and have surgery on Monday after Easter. That was kind of what the plan was. So here's what happened, one of the coolest things ever. I just like sharing this part of the story. So I did the message, and we packed house, 2 services, if I'm not mistaken. People everywhere. It was so much fun. I did Easter. Jesus was alive. We celebrated. It was great. And then I said, and let me pray, and I prayed for us. And as I said amen, they began doing the response thing, you know, where the worship people come up and sing one more song and that kind of stuff. And I, instead of coming down like I normally do to sit on the front row, I said later, and I walked out the back door of the sanctuary, down the stairs, out the back door of the church, where I had a car waiting for me. There's a dude in the car, and he's like, come on, my bag was already in the car. I hopped in the car like I felt like a celebrity. Off to the airport, hop on a plane, fly to Maryland to go have a major operation on my left lung. Now, the plan was this. See, the plan was to go in and laparoscopically remove the mass, like they would do if you get an ACL tear or something along those lines. The problem is that they said, you know, if we can't do it laparoscopically, we're going to have to like cut you open and go in and touch your lung, which is just disgusting to think about. Okay, but we're going to have to kind of do that sort of thing. If we do it laparoscopically, Jeremy, you're going to be in the hospital 3 days and you'll be back home. Now, let me tell you why I like that idea. Because I wanted to be back home. Right? I didn't want to be in a hospital any longer than I had to be, and I definitely didn't want to take any time off of work. Certainly God would understand, because I was actually doing His work, so I figured God would do me a solid. You know, so laparoscopically is kind of how I thought that would kind of go. But if they cut me open, they said, Jeremy, it'll take 5-7 days, you'll be in the hospital, no problem. All I can remember is waking up in the recovery room on Monday, and there my beautiful bride was standing over me. And the first question out of my mouth, I'm sure, actually, I was a little doped up, so I'm not sure if it was the first question. One of those questions that came out of me at some point was, how did it go? She said, well, they couldn't do it laparoscopically. The mass that they thought was about the size of a golf ball really was about the size of a grapefruit or a softball. And they couldn't, just, it was so big, they couldn't do anything with it. So they actually had to kind of cut you open. And so I immediately start thinking, well, it's okay. I already planned on taking the next Sunday off and preaching, because after a major operation, you get a Sunday off. And so I was like, okay, so we'll take that off, but I'll be back in the office. So I'll be here a week, and I'll be back in the office, and everything will kind of be fine, and we'll just kind of continue moving forward. But little did I know, at the time, I had 3 chest tubes hanging out of my side, and they were taking me to intensive care so that I could spend 4 hours on, 4 hours off a CPAP machine, trying to get my lung to like reinflate because I had to remove part of my lung, which is consequently why I'm not as good at ping pong now as I used to be. Now, as I'm lying in ICU, all I can think about is, man, I gotta get back. There's stuff going on, and I want to be a part of it. I don't want to miss out on anything. And then something happened. They moved me to a regular room, and it looked like I was improving, and it looked like I was going to get to go home soon. And the doctor came in. See, every morning they would draw blood at 6 a.m. to check like different levels in my body, make sure my body was functioning correctly. And they came in around 8 after doing blood work that morning, and he said to me, Jeremy, we got a little bit of a problem. See, there's 2 enzymes in your body that kind of tell us if your pancreas is working or not. They're called amylase and lipase. And those 2 numbers are increasing. And that's not good. We think you're developing or have developed pancreatitis. I'm not a fool. I know a little bit about what pancreatitis is and how I went, but see, Doc, the problem is I'm not having any pain in my pancreas area. Right? Nothing is going on inside me like I didn't feel good, but I'm like, I feel good. You know, I feel like I could go for a walk, you know? And he was like, no, we got to figure this out. We can't just up and go. We got to figure this out. We can't put you on a plane and have like your pancreas want to explode at high altitude. That's not a good idea. I was like, well, that's not a good idea to me either. But surely a day or 2, we'll get this kind of figured out. The next day, he comes in after doing the blood work. And Jeremy, those levels are increasing even more. 3rd day, they're increasing a little more. And what we're going to do now is we're going to stop feeding you. I'm not making that up. That's actually a hospital procedure. We're going to stop feeding you. We're going to give you nutrients via IV, and you can't eat. And everybody around you can eat, and you can smell how good the bagels are, but you can't have one. Because we want to kind of make sure that all of this can kind of rest. Eventually, Jody and I sat down. We had to have a conversation. I say he sat down. I was laying down. She sat down. We had to have a conversation about kind of what the next few days were going to hold. She had already been there about a week at this point in time, and she had to go back and be with our little girls. They had been with grandparents for the whole time I was there, and they needed some semblance of structure, needed to sleep in their own bed, and she was going to have to go back to school, and she didn't want to use all of her vacation days from school because she knew when I came home she was probably going to need to take some. And so we made the decision together, and it was the right decision, that she was going to have to go back home and leave me alone. I'll never forget the morning. It's just like burned in my brain. The morning that she walked into my hospital room. She was carrying her suitcase. And I was hundreds of miles from my nearest family, hundreds of miles from anybody that I really cared about, or that really cared about me. She prayed for me. She prayed so well. She kissed me, and I watched her walk away. And I laid there in the bed, kind of staring at the ceiling. I don't know how long it was. It probably just a matter of moments, and the doctor walks into my room. And he looks at me, and I'm thinking, surely, Doc is going to give me some good news. Like, surely, like he's going to tell me these numbers are lowering, and in a couple days I'll be able to go back to Alabama and be with my family again. He looked at me and he said, Jeremy, the numbers are even higher today than they were yesterday. It's just going to take a few more days for us to figure out exactly what's going on. I'm just going to be honest. I wasn't real family at that time. He left my room, and I took the sheets and I pulled them up over my head, and I didn't just cry. I sobbed. I didn't just sob. I ugly cried. You know what I'm talking about? Like where you cry so bad, I'm already ugly, but it was just worse, right? And I can remember thinking just how incredibly broken I was. Literally, like my body was broken. There was something wrong inside of me. Emotionally, I was broken. Spiritually even, I was broken. There was a bitterness and an anger that I had to deal with God about as I laid in that hospital bed. After all, I was a minister of the gospel. Like, surely God didn't cause me to have to go through this. I was broken in every way possible. And can I tell you that I fear a lot of things, and there's a lot of things that I kind of worry about. I'm kind of a worrisome kind of person. But do you understand the thing that I probably worry about or fear the most is being alone? And one of the lies that we buy into when we find ourselves broken, like I did that day in the hospital, is that we're alone. In fact, brokenness can be one of the most lonely places that we can be. And just think through that with me, right? Your marriage may be on the rocks, your marriage is in turmoil, you're arguing with your spouse. I'm not talking just arguing, but like chunking stuff and saying things you don't mean, kind of arguing with each other. And you know that it's not right. You know that you need some help, but because of who you are in the community, or because of who you are in the church, or because of who all might know you, you just kind of say, well, I just can't deal with it, so we just hide it, and we just isolate ourselves further and farther away. And you may feel like you're the only one who's going through the problems you're going through, and you feel so alone. Or your wife or your husband, they love to go and spend money, and you love them, so you want to give to them, and you want to allow them to buy the things that they want, but you're in charge of the finances, and you can't control how much is going in and how much is going out. So in order to kind of keep appeasing your spouse, you just keep charging more. We'll get more credit cards, and we'll get more debt, and we'll take out this loan, and we'll take more debt. And you want to get some help, and you want to talk to your wife about it, but you can't do it. You want to talk to your husband about it, but you can't do it. And you're embarrassed to go to the bank because who can't manage their finances well, but you're not making ends meet. The collectors are starting to call, and you just kind of push back away from that and isolate yourself. You stop answering the phone. You stop talking to your spouse. And you feel more and more alone. Your child is diagnosed with a condition. Your child has some problems at school. Whatever that may be, no one understands, and no one you can talk to, and no one can go through this or walk through this with you. And every time you go around somebody, all they see is the negative and what's wrong and what's not working. And you just isolate yourself more and more. And so many of us walk through life, no matter how it is we're broken or why we're broken. We walk through life feeling completely alone. Maybe you're divorced and you're single. You feel alone. You feel shunned maybe even by the church or shoved off to a corner because of what's happened in your past, regardless of how it is. The lie that sometimes we buy into when we find ourselves broken is the fact that we're alone. We just hate feeling alone. Some of you have wandered in here today. You feel alone. We're going to learn today, hopefully, from a woman named Hannah, not how to get through our brokenness, but who to go to in the midst of our brokenness, so that we know we are not alone. So let's take a look at Hannah's story. 1 Samuel chapter 1, beginning in verse 1. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, an Ephraimite, and we will not read that verse again. Verse 2. He had two wives. One was called Hannah, and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Now, real quick, we kind of have to tell you some things that are going on culturally. You see, the reason that genealogy is there with all those big, long names is it told the first century Jews something when they read it. They recognized those individuals as being of a priestly line. In fact, of a very specific line of priests that at one point in time were responsible for carrying the Ark of the Covenant itself. The idea that they want to convey to you is that Elkanah, or however you pronounce that guy's name, he was of a very specific lineage and a very prestigious lineage of priests. As a result, he had prestige. As a result, he had power. As a result, he likely had some wealth and some money. And that was kind of who he was in the community. You kind of track with me, you understand kind of what we're talking about here? So, what happens then is Elkanah has two wives. Now, quickly, we have to kind of address this idea of polygamy. There are times when we read the Bible that it is prescriptive. That means it tells us this is what should happen. All right? And there's other times in Scripture where it is descriptive, meaning it describes to us what was. Okay? We should not read this and go, the Bible thinks we should all have two wives. That's not what the Bible is teaching. And if you want to say amen there, don't, because your wife will elbow you. Right? I mean, come on. I'm not even a good husband to the one wife I do have. All right? So it's not saying that. It's describing what had gone on. And it tells us likely why he had two wives at the very last sentence. It says that one of his wives, Peninnah, had children, and Hannah had none. That you see, having a child in the ancient Near East was one of the few things that women did that held value in that society. Okay? So it was very important that men had offspring to carry their name, to carry their fortune, to carry their material goods and possessions with me. And if they didn't have that, then they would have been kind of looked down on in society. The women had very little rights in this day and age. Their testimony would not count in court if they went to court. They could not be witnesses. They could not hold land in a number of cases. And so the one thing of value that they offered was this ability to have children. And oftentimes their entire femininity was kind of sewn up or put into this idea that they could have a child. Now, it's likely that Eve, the guy named Elkanah, married Hannah, and she wasn't able to have children. So in order for a man of his wealth and prestige to be able to have a child that could carry on his name and carry on his possessions, he then went and married wife number 2 so that he could have children. And it worked. Wife 2 had many, many, many children. But immediately we can start to see the plight of Hannah, can't we? Immediately, if we're just attuned to it just briefly, we can see Hannah's problem. The one thing that she could give to her husband, who we know loves her very much, who we can assume she loves him very much, the one thing that she could do that was of value in this society, one thing that her entire womanhood was wrapped in, she was lacking. To add to it, there were a number of people that felt that if you weren't able to have children, you were being cursed by God. In the same way that if you were able to have children, you were being blessed by God. So she must have felt kind of ostracized, outcast. She must have already felt like God was somehow against her. I can only imagine the bitterness and the hurt that she carried with her in her heart. Hang on a second. It's only going to get worse. Look at verse 3. Verse 3. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and tell her, and to all of her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her and because the Lord had closed her womb. Now, real quick, Elkanah is going to show us kind of some of the things that we do wrong as men and as husbands today. The first one is he misunderstands her grief so badly that he thinks he can just kind of make it better with some ribeyes. We'll talk about it here. What's going on? He says that every year he would go up to Shiloh to worship God. Shiloh was a place that the tabernacle was set up. You have to understand this is before David. This is before Solomon. This is before the temple was built. So we know that the Ark of the Covenant dwelt in a tent, according to David, right? We know that this was the place where where the tabernacle was set up, the tent of meeting where they could go and worship. And so he would go year after year, and he would fulfill the law. So he was a law-abiding man. He was a righteous man. He wanted to do what God wanted him to do, and so he would go and offer these sacrifices. Now, he'd take his entire family with him, and likely the sacrifice he was offering was a peace sacrifice, a peace offering. What that meant was that a portion of the meat that from the animal that was sacrificed would be burnt on the altar. Another portion would be given to the priest and his family. And another portion would be divided amongst those who were making the sacrifice. So he had this meat that they were going to celebrate with and have a feast with. And so he takes it and he divides it amongst his family. And he would give some to Peninnah. He'd give some to her children, of which it seems like she has many. And then he would look at Hannah and he would go, but I love Hannah and I'm going to do my best. I think he's trying to just make her feel a little better. So he slips her a little extra sirloin. Right? He gives her a little extra meat. I don't know if he thinks that that's going to somehow make it better, but in this we see that nature that we as men have, don't we? there's something wrong with my wife. I'm going to do everything I can to try to fix it. And unfortunately, he keeps making misstep after misstep. He goes on. Look what they say happens next. We're reading verse 6. And because the Lord has closed Hannah's womb, her rival, this is the other wife, kept provoking her in order to irritate her. And this went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her until she wept and would not eat. Let me put this in 21st century terms. Her rival, Peninnah, bullied her. See, I think there's sometimes maybe we take the bullying thing a little too far. There's sometimes where, like, the bully has something that they can gain from it, like they make themselves feel better by putting somebody else down. I got to thinking about what Peninnah had to gain by provoking Hannah in this way, and I can't come up with anything. She already had everything. She's the one that has children. Her husband's line is going to be carried through her and her children. She is going to be taken care of by her children into her old age. She is the one that presumably has the blessing from God. She is the one that seems to have everything. And yet when they would go to sacrifice, she would taunt Hannah. And she would provoke Hannah. And she would just kind of ruin Hannah. Now I got to think about this. And some of you ladies, you can stick with me on this, or you can send me bad emails later. I was just thinking about this. Guys, we do this sometimes. Guys, men. Like we may get the new car, or we may get some kind of cool toy or tool or something like that we know our buddy wants. I know he really wants this type of car. I know he really wants this tool. And then we invite him over just to show him what we have and he doesn't have. Sometimes we do that. Right? But I think we kind of move past that and get over that pretty quick. But I have 3 women in my house. Y'all are mean. Can I just be honest with you? Holy cow. Like, y'all will find somebody else's weakness, and then y'all just like hone in on it. And I'm telling you, and it can be absolutely destroying to somebody sometimes. I can remember being in high school, and the group that everybody kind of wanted to be a part of was the cheerleaders. All the cool girls wanted to be a part of the cheerleaders. Maybe that's still that way today. I don't know. But that was what they did. And so I saw girls in an effort to fit in, and girls that wanted so desperately to be a part of something that would go and they had no desire to cheer. They just wanted to be a part of that group. And they'd go and they'd try out. And then eventually they'd have to make the cuts. And I saw people that used to be friends stop being friends because they weren't a part of this group. Now, I saw them throw parties and look at the people that used to be a friend and go, I'm sorry, you can't come because you're not one of us. I can only imagine how Hannah must have felt going to worship God with her husband. To have that woman over there who has everything that I want, rub it in my face. It's so extreme, he says, that she wept, she ugly cried. She refused to even eat. We kind of know what that's like, don't we? In fact, all of us have found a place maybe at one point in time in our life, either we've been there, or we're there right now, or we're on our way there, where we were so broken that you didn't want to eat, you didn't want to get up, depression kind of set in, and you're just done. That is where Hannah finds herself. It's her husband. The husband, he tries to fix it. That's what we husbands do. Look what happens in verse 8. Her husband, Elkanah, would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Stop. I'm so bad at this. I'm sorry, Jody. I'm so bad at this. Men, when you walk in and your wife is crying, probably the worst question you can ask is, why are you crying? And yet all the way back here in 1 Samuel, chapter 1, we see Elkanah do the exact same thing. I don't know. Maybe he talked like, why are you crying? I don't know why he did that. But he comes in and he starts out, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? And then he makes this great statement. Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Now, I have some empathy for Elkanah here, because I too have made dumb statements like that. Right? I can remember in 2006, Jody's mom was nearing the end of her 3-year battle with cancer. She was getting ready to go be with Jesus. And she was at home in a hospital bed, and my wife was just distraught. And as you can imagine, as we went through that very, very difficult time in our family. And I had been in a conference in Atlanta, and so I swung back through Birmingham. We were living in Texas at the time. And I get to Birmingham, and she's there. She's tending to her mom and trying to take care of her dad. My wife is just amazing at holding it all together, and she does. But there were times she would just kind of get sad, and she would cry, and she would break down. And I love her. I want to fix it. And so I would try to be funny, or I try whatever. And I can remember at one point I actually said these foolish words. I don't know why you're so upset. I mean, I'm here. Oh, that was horrible. Oh, that was horrible. Can't believe I said it, right? But as Elkanah says this, I immediately go back there and I go, he's just trying to make it better. He's just trying to say something. He's just trying to speak into her situation and kind of raise her up out of the pit. The problem is, sometimes the best thing we can do is just be silent. He speaks and he just makes it worse. And I can only imagine, again, how Hannah would just move further into her pit of despair because this man that I love, who seems to love me, he doesn't even understand me. He doesn't even begin to get what's going on with me. He doesn't even know how to comfort me. There is no empathy. There is no sympathy. It isn't because he doesn't love her. It's because he doesn't get her. Look what happens. Verse 9. Once when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. She made a vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. Now, real quickly, I want to kind of address a couple things. This no razor being used on his head is a reference to a vow that was talked about in Numbers chapter 6 called the Nazarite vow. It's a way of setting people aside as holy. They wouldn't cut their hair, they wouldn't touch dead things, and they wouldn't drink alcohol. That was for the period of time that they had taken the vow. It seems clear she was making that vow for his entire life. Samson took a similar vow. If you remember that story where that's why when Delilah cut his hair, it was bad. Okay, so anyway, so that's the vow that she's talking about. And I don't think that this passage is teaching us that we should go and make vows and promises to God like this. God, if you'll just give me what you want, then I will. God, if you'll just do this, then I will. I'm telling you, most of the time that works very poorly in Scripture. Here she makes that vow to him. The important thing that I want us to recognize is this. When she's broken, when she feels most alone, when she feels most vulnerable, her natural response is not to go and whine and cry about it more, but finally she goes, I'm going to go to the only person that can fix it. I'm going to go to the only one that can do something about it. And I'm broken, and I'm hurt, and I'm going to take every bit of it. Where? Straight to God. That's what she does when she finds herself broken and most alone in this world. The problem is that she has to go to the ancient Near Eastern version of a church to make that happen. Look what happens when she shows up here. Verse 12. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was, what's the word? Thought she was drunk, right? And he said to her, how long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Let me tell you why this passage of Scripture hurts me as a pastor. See, she was broken. She was hurting. She felt alone. She showed up at church to pray to God. And there she met a man that was supposed to represent God, the priest. And he misunderstood her so severely that he pointed out even more that he thought was wrong with her. He thought she was drunk. Let me tell you why that's a big deal. It's a big deal because of all places in this world, the church should be a place for broken people. Last week we discussed that, didn't we? Last week we said that you're broken, and I'm broken, and we're all broken. We all carry that brokenness with us. There's not one person that escapes brokenness. And the one place that we should be able to bring our brokenness is to a group of believers who can gather around us and pray for us and lift us up and direct us to our Heavenly Father. But there's a problem. And the problem is that too many people bring their brokenness to church only to have all their other wrongs pointed out to them. only to be hurt more by people that are supposed to represent Heavenly Father. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Patricia. Patricia, when I first met her, I can remember kind of being taken aback. She was a very short woman, not very tall, and she came into church, and she had her two sons with her, both of which were much taller than her. And she began coming to church, and I began to kind of notice some things about Patricia. She kept a very clean home, but oftentimes her boys didn't have the best hygiene. They were in high school and graduated from high school, and there were times where I noticed that things that they were wearing were dirty or didn't quite smell nice. And as we got to know Patricia, we began to know a little bit of her story. She was divorced and was living by herself with her two sons. She could not drive, did not have any income other than disability checks for her and her two boys, and that was what she was living on in a little trailer there about within walking distance of our church. And didn't really have any hope of getting a job, didn't really have any desire to get a job. She was just kind of living from checks to checks. That's just kind of how her existence kind of was. But Miss Patricia had some problems mentally. I don't really know exactly why she had these problems, but her mind just didn't work very fast, and she certainly was on a low level intellectually, and as a result, she didn't really know how to manage her money very well. And her sons were very good at manipulating her. So they would talk her into taking the check that she got that they had to buy food with and pay rent with. Take it and let's go and let's buy video games with it. Let's go and let's buy fireworks with it. She had sons that manipulated her and acted up in school and were doing silly things like building homemade moms and stuff like that out of their bedrooms, and she had no way to control it, no way to kind of handle it. She just did not have the mental capacity to be able to kind of take that on. We ministered to her and loved her and kind of just wanted her to be with us, and we had people that would go and pick her up and her boys bring her to church and that sort of thing. And I can remember one particular day we had a guest speaker, former Alabama running back, Saran Stacy, was there. Thank you for not booing. Saran was there, and as he spoke and shared, there was a moment in his message where Miss Patricia became so broken. She became so overwhelmed with emotion. She just hollered out. She didn't say anything. She couldn't take it anymore, the emotion that was welling up inside of her because of her brokenness. She knew stuff was wrong. She had no idea how to fix it. She was as broken as could be. Next Monday, Miss Patricia called me. She apologized profusely. She said, I've already gotten a couple phone calls, Jeremy, and let me know that wasn't appropriate, and I didn't want to disrupt the service in any way. She really didn't come back to church after that. So I talked with her. I let her know that everything was okay, that of all places that you should be able to be broken, that was a place. You don't have to apologize for what God's doing in you. You don't have to apologize for where God's taking you, because of all places, the church should be a place where you can bring your brokenness. Unfortunately, there are some of you that have experienced exactly what I'm talking about. You show up at church and you're broken because of a relationship that's ended, or another relationship that's trying to get started, or your kids are doing something you're not necessarily approving of, or you have an addiction that's become public, or somehow your brokenness has other people have become aware of your brokenness for whatever reason. You show up at church and you get shunned, you get pushed to the back, you're not allowed to express yourself in whatever way you feel God is leading you to express yourself. And so a lot of folks that experience that, they just wander off. They just go away, and they walk away from the church because they feel that the church is not a place for broken people. Can I tell you something? Church is a place for broken people, because at the end of the day, we're all broken. Crosswind is not always going to get it right. The church down the street is not always going to get it right. By God, this should be a place where you should be able to come with your brokenness. She can't even pray to God without a priest thinking she's drunk. Now she's been ridiculed by another woman. She's her husband has failed miserably at trying to comfort her. And now the man of God, supposed to represent God, has accused her of drunkenness. How alone does she feel? Where can she turn? What can she do? She explains herself to Eli. Not so, my Lord. This is verse 15. Hannah replied, I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Eli backpedals a little bit. Verse 17. He said, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. Eli is not saying God's going to give you what you asked for. Eli's saying, man, I hope you get what you want. That's kind of what he's saying here. I hope you get what you want because you're in great grief. Verse 18, she said, may the servant find favor in your eyes. And then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. This is so cool. In fact, I want to make sure that we understand real quick that verse 18 comes before verse 19 and 20. This is really important that you get this. Because in verse 19 and 20, verses that we won't read for the sake of time, here's what we find out. We find that once they return home, Hannah gets pregnant. Once they return home, Hannah gives birth to a son. She names him Samuel. He becomes the prophet of all of Israel. See, what we learn in verse 19 and verse 20 is that God gives her the desire of her heart. Now, here's why verse 18, coming before verses 19 and 20, is so important. Look at the end of it again. Kelly, if you put it up. Look at verse 18. It says, after she prayed about this, after she took her brokenness to God, then her attitude changed. Then she ate. Then she was no longer sad. See, it's important to know that she didn't become happy when God changed her circumstances. She became happy when she took her brokenness to the only one that could do anything about it. See, here's why that's so important. One of the times I've been most broken in my life was when my parents divorced. I've shared that story with you all. I was an adult. I was married already. It was so incredibly hard for me, and I was so incredibly broken. And I prayed that God would restore their marriage. Yet 1 month after the divorce was filed, it was over and done. They've been separated ever since. See, I didn't get better when God changed my circumstances and gave me what I want. I became better when I recognized I've got to take my brokenness to my Heavenly Father and ask Him to put all the pieces back together in me. Jody's mom succumbed to cancer in November of 2006 in spite of the fact that we prayed so incredibly hard for God to heal her on this side of heaven. But He didn't. And we're able to deal with that brokenness in our life not because God did what we asked Him to do, but because we took our brokenness to the only one that could do anything about it and asked Him to put the pieces of us back together. See, learn from Hannah. Her face doesn't change. Her attitude doesn't change because God gives her what He wants. We know God gives her what He wants, but her position was changed in verse 18, which last time I checked is one verse before verses 19 and 20. I'm so thankful that God put it there so we can understand it's not changing of our circumstances, it's a changing of our mindset. It's a direction issue. Taking our brokenness to our Heavenly Father. So I want to ask you this question today. What brokenness are you carrying around? See, last week we kind of brought up this issue and we kind of said every one of us carries something. Sometimes it's real obvious. We can't hide it, right? It's 1 or 2 or 3 divorces. It's broken relationships all in our way. It's financial trouble. It's something big that there's no way to hide it. You carry that with you. For others, it's a little more easily concealed. It's an addiction. It's a marriage that's strained. There's all sorts of things that are going on. But you and I, make no mistake about it, are carrying around brokenness. And if we're not careful, that brokenness will whisper its little eye into our ear that we're all alone. That no one will understand. And no one will help. And no one can pull me up out of the pit. And listen, you need a group to be a part of it. You need Christian people to surround you and pray for you. But today, I wonder if you would do something. Today, I wonder if you would just find yourself in the middle of your brokenness. take your brokenness to your Heavenly Father, who frankly is the only one who can do anything about it. I wonder if you would take it to Him and say, God, here are all the pieces. Here are all the pieces, and I don't know what to do with them. I can't put them back together, and no one else can put them back together. But you alone can fix them. I don't know what your brokenness is, but I know you're carrying it with you. And I wonder if today you might find the same change in countenance that Hannah found when you carry the pieces of your brokenness to your Heavenly Father, who is the only one who can do anything about it. God doesn't always change your circumstances, but He certainly can change your heart. So I'm not asking you to do something that for some of you may be just a little outside of your comfort zone. Today, I kind of want to transform this stage into an altar. And I wonder if as we spend time in response, maybe you'll do what Hannah did and slip out of your seat. Pastor said she stood up and went to a place to pray. I wonder if you would find yourself down here and kneel before your Heavenly Father and say, God, I don't know what to do, but here's my brokenness. It may be small, it may be big, but here's the brokenness, and I'm going to bring the pieces of it to you. I know that can be incredibly emotional. So we're here to respond as long as the Holy Spirit prompts us to respond. And I'm going to ask some of our elders, if you don't mind, I haven't talked to you about this beforehand, I'm so sorry, but we respond, we all kind of take your way down and kind of stand on, sit on the front row, that sort of thing. If somebody, you want to pray with somebody, you can come find one of us. We'll be down on the front row. If you're a lady and you'd like to pray with a lady, my wife would be down here. I'm sure some of the elders' wives would come down here. Maybe you just want to be available to pray with somebody. Feel free to come down and just kind of hang on this front row. But I wonder if today we would take a step out of our comfort zone. Take a step out of that seat that's so comfortable and say, God, I'm carrying this brokenness and I don't know what else to do with it other than take it to your throne and lay it at your feet. I wonder if we would respond with that much courage today. Because ultimately your Heavenly Father, He's really the only one that can do anything about it. Would you respond to His prodding right now?